I'm riding through RAF Cranwell in Lincolnshire, home to the Royal Air Force College, which trains the RAF's new officers and aircrew. Hello and welcome to the ride. I'm here to see this famous place, arguably the first home of the Royal Air Force as it emerged as a fully independent service in 1918. I'm here too because of its connection with a chapter called The Road in T.E. Lawrence's book The Mint, published posthumously in 1955, which is famous amongst motorcyclists. Lawrence, the world famous Lawrence of Arabia no less, evoked brilliantly the thrill of riding along a fast straight road, racing a Bristol Fighter biplane until he eased his Brough Superior motorcycle into Lincoln and to his lodgings. And this is from where he started that journey to Lincoln. RAF Cranwell, now much more developed of course than in Lawrence's day here. Lawrence wrote about how he motorcycled to Lincoln every day after work. He said, "Nightly I'd run up from the hangar upon the last stroke of work, spurring my tired feet to be nimble. The very movement refreshed them after the day-long restraint of service. In 5 minutes my bed would be down, ready for the night. In 4 more I was in breeches and puttees, pulling on my gauntlets as I walked over to my bike, which lived in a garage hut opposite. Its tyres never wanted air. Its engine had a habit of starting at second kick, a good habit, for only by frantic plunges upon the starting pedal could my puny weight force the engine over the 7 atmospheres of its compression." The escape from the day-long restraint of service was from his posting as aircraftman T.E. Shaw at Cranwell between 1925 and 1926. Famously seeking to escape the alter ego of Lawrence of Arabia, he had enlisted under an assumed name. Lawrence bought a new Brough Superior motorcycle to celebrate his return to the RAF, and it is this 1925 SS 100 that appears as the mighty Boanerges in Lawrence's thrilling evocation of the flat-out ride in the Mint. Boanerges, a name given to the apostles John and James by Jesus. It means sons of thunder. There's Lawrence with George Brough, the builder of his motorcycles. The stretch of road where he claimed to have raced and beaten a Bristol Fighter biplane is the A15 between Sleaford and Lincoln. And this is the road that I'm joining now, just where Lawrence would have too. Lawrence wrote about the stretch between Cranwell and Lincoln. "Another bend, and I have the honour of one of England's straightest and fastest roads. The burble of my exhaust unwound like a long cord behind me. Soon my speed snapped it, and I heard only the cry of the wind, which my battering head split and fended aside. The cry rose with my speed to a shriek, while the air's coldness streamed like 2 jets of iced water into my dissolving eyes. I screwed them to slits and focused my sight 200 yards ahead of me on the empty mosaic of the tar's gravelled undulations. Unfortunately, the same can't be said today. Rather than focusing on a stretch of empty tarmac, I'm hampered by traffic ahead which, if I catch, will spoil the video. And then there are the speed cameras and speeding traps of various sorts along the way. Nevertheless, I can at least say that I'm following Lawrence's A15 route from Cranwell to Lincoln on my own motorcycle, and yes indeed, after a short sequence of sweeping bends, the road does straighten out for mile after mile to reach a crescendo of straight-line speed potential as it approaches RAF Waddington, which was but a tiny aerodrome in Lawrence's day. Here's Lawrence again. Note, Biff was a nickname for the Bristol Fighter. Once we so fled across the evening light with the yellow sun on my left, when a huge shadow roared just overhead. A Bristol Fighter from whitewashed villas, our neighbour aerodrome, was banking sharply round. I checked speed an instant to wave, and the slipstream of my impetus snapped my arm and elbow astern like a raised flail. The pilot pointed down the road towards Lincoln. I sat hard in the saddle, folded back my ears and went away after him like a dog after a hare. Open went my throttle again. Boa crept level, 50 feet below, held them, sailed ahead into the clean and lonely country. An approaching car pulled nearly into its ditch at the sight of our race. The Biff was zooming among the trees and telegraph poles, with my scurrying spot only 80 yards ahead. I gained though, gained steadily, was perhaps 5 miles an hour the faster. Down went my left hand to give the engine 2 extra dollops of oil for fear that something was running hot. But an overhead Jap twin, super-tuned like this one, would carry on to the moon and back, unfaltering. The Jap engine, eulogised by Lawrence, was made by John Alfred Prestwich, JAP, and fitted into the Brough for its power and reliability. The only thing my Japanese motorcycle has in common with Lawrence's mighty Brough Superior is the horsepower, around 50, but his was a great thumping 1000cc long-stroke, low-revving V-twin with nothing in the way of silencing. It must have truly roared, whilst mine is a precision-built 8-valved parallel twin, sewing machine smooth, half the Brough's capacity, short-stroked, water-cooled, high-revving, and muffled into quietness. And things too have changed in the road, on the speed department. The sheer amount of traffic, mid-afternoon on a sunny August day, combined with speeding traps, make any hope of replicating Lawrence's epic ride nothing more than a flight of fancy. Nevertheless, it's good to have motorcycled along the exact road of which Lawrence and his thundering Boanerges made a legend. Lawrence continued, quote, "We drew near the settlement. Before the first houses, I closed down and coasted to the crossroads by the hospital." End of quote. Well, the settlement is Bracebridge Heath, and the old hospital is behind those trees on the right. In Lawrence's day, it was the lunatic asylum. On the day I passed through, the old hospital building was being redeveloped into flats, and new houses are for sale within the grounds. Lawrence added more. Biff caught up, banked and climbed and turned for home, waving to me as long as he was in sight. 14 miles from camp, we are here, and 15 minutes since I left Tug and Dusty at the hut door. I let in the clutch again and eased Boanerges down the hill, along the tram lines, through the dirty streets and up to the aloof cathedral. Well, here's the hill down to the, quote, dirty streets. The hill from Bracebridge Heath down to Lincoln. And there's the aloof cathedral on the horizon. Lawrence was able to carry straight on and up the appropriately named steep hill in his day, but that's long been closed to traffic, and I'm forced to turn left. But up on Steep Hill is a plaque above Brown's Pie Shop celebrating the fact that Lawrence once lodged in the building whilst serving at RAF Cranwell. Not surprisingly, it honours the exploits and writings of Lawrence of Arabia, but there'll always be a place in the world of motorcycling for Lawrence as T.E. Shaw, a fellow rider who could capture the thrill of a short ride and turn it into a stirringly monumental and lasting epic. If you've enjoyed the ride, please like, subscribe and perhaps even share. I'll then let you know when I'm next out and about. For now, I'm done.